The X-Trial FIM World Championship comes to Hungary for the first time and to its capital city for X-Trial Budapest. The last individual action of the 2018 winter campaign sees the riders travel to the third different host nation, with the top two rankings in the world already settled following a first capital city visit of the season last time out. X-Trial returned to France last time around with a return to the calendar for X-Trial Paris for the first time since 2012. And there was a great deal of anticipation for the event, with uncertainty over the fitness of Adam Raga and Tony Bow, and the possibility of change at the top of the pecking order. Both riders made it safely through round one though. James Dable and Jeroni Fajardo were big-name early casualties. Dable eliminated in the opening phase for the fourth round in succession, and Fajardo's hopes of retaining his world number 3 ranking over, as he failed to secure qualification to participate in Budapest. Mikel Jalabert went toe-to-toe with Adam Raga in Heat 1 of the second round, but the third failure of the lap ended his night prematurely. And since a runner-up position in Strasbourg, the Spanish youngster has dropped steadily back from the pace of the main contenders for the FIM bronze medal. Fifth place went to Tony Bow, bravely returning just a month after suffering 3 broken vertebrae. But he was in visible discomfort as he failed 3 sections and was ruled out of contention for qualification 2 rides short of section 6. Benoit Bincaz arrives in Hungary still third in the world thanks to his consistency, completing a quartet of 4th place finishes in the last 5 rounds. The Frenchman delighted the crowd by finishing just 3 marks short of qualification to the final. But he was beaten on points by Takehisa Fujinami, who, despite missing out on a place in the head-to-head phase, notched his first podium finish since the 2013 campaign. In the process, became only the second ever rider to appear on the podium 3 times at X-Trial Paris. After the elimination of Tony Bow, Adam Raga assumed the mantle of favourite, but his bid for a first victory since 2016 was thwarted by Jaime Busto. Raga led the final lap until an unexpected 5-mark score in section 5, and with Busto completing the section to take a 3-mark advantage, all he had to do was ride through the pressure in section 6 to secure his first career victory. Busto's inconsistency means only the right result in Budapest will enable him to join Tony Bow and Adam Raga on the 2018 World Championship podium. But with each rider's lowest score subtracted, as they will be at the end of the season, Busto holds a slender advantage over main rival Benoit Bincaz, who occupies 3rd overall. Mikel Jalabert is the only other rider still in the hunt for a place in the top 3, and he will need to make the final in Budapest to bring himself back into contention. With the top 2 positions in the 2018 X-Trial World Championship already settled, the race for the bronze medal is the focus in the context of the series overall, the campaign's climax in Budapest. Mikel Jalabert currently sits 5th, and with 12 points to make up, would need a place in the final to have a hope of taking the 3rd step on the championship podium in his debut season. It's a bit far away, but the idea is to focus on riding well and not to think about the results. But if I do ride well and I can finish in the top 2, then why not? Let's see what the others do and whether I can make it to 3rd. Benoit Bincaz has held 3rd position for much of the 2018 season, but saw his advantage slashed in Paris. He's desperate to hold on to a ranking which vindicates a youth of hard work and sacrifice. I've been riding for a long time, training every day with the goal of making it at world level. Now I'm here, and being up on the podium is just a dream. So with only 1 race remaining, I'll be giving it everything to take 3rd. That's what I'm fighting for. It's so important for me and everyone around me supporting me. Jaime Busto is the favourite for the coveted bronze medal. Like Jalabert and Bincaz in his first full season of X-Trial competition, Busto benefited from his first nomination as a permanent rider. The youngster has visibly grown in stature and confidence since a last-place finish in Montpellier, resulting in his first X-Trial victory in Paris last time out. I was very happy with my race in Paris after a difficult season where I wasn't really riding well. We had a couple of weeks of real intense training and we found the rhythm we were looking for. I think we needed to get used to the new bike more and recover the right feeling that we thought we had at the first round. I arrived in Paris really keen to do a good job, and I quickly realised that I could, right from the first lap, so I was delighted with the result. The rise of these three new challengers is part of a 2018 selection criteria that has facilitated the inclusion of young riders in every X-Trial lineup. In Budapest, Italy's Luca Petrella and Spain's Gabriel Marcelli make their X-Trial World Championship debuts. But the fight between Jalabert, Bincaz and Busto, each of whom have recorded at least one podium finish this season, is good news for the sport after a period of domination by experienced veterans. These three young riders, two of whom made their debut under the new regulations this season, show no fear of challenging the established order. With the previous regulations, we didn't have access to the championship, but thanks to the new system, we've had the opportunity to ride and show what we can do at this level. It's a very important thing, and I'm very grateful to X-Trial to have given the young riders the chance to compete, particularly as I've been able to take advantage of it and qualify from one round to the next. The new regulations have also helped us to be a bit further forward with the classifications where only one rider progresses from each heat. This year that appears to have benefited us in particular. We're the ones with the motivation. We're not afraid to put in a lot of hours on the bike. It would seem that this is the moment that the page is turning for some riders. So it's time for the youngsters not to give up and actually to push even harder. I think our biggest advantage is that we're not afraid at all, whereas other older riders are set in their ways, and when they're afraid, they don't give it 100%. For us, if we fall, so be it. We give our best, so that's why sometimes we make it through and they don't. It's special for us young riders to be ahead of our idols, riders who we grew up admiring as children. So much the better for us, for young riders, and X-Trial in general. This changing of the guard is very important for the sport. Hungary becomes the 19th different country to host an X-Trial FIM World Championship event as it stages the prestigious final round of the 2018 season. The Budapest Sport Arena is the home for X-Trial Budapest, attended by almost 4,000 spectators waiting to get a first taste of the discipline. A new look to the lineup after the late withdrawal of Tony Bow due to continued complications of his three broken vertebrae, with Jeroni Fajardo failing to qualify and missing his first X-Trial since 2007. That gives two new young riders an opportunity to make their debut in the sport. Despite finishing bottom of the pile in Paris, Alexander Ferrer received a late call-up to appear in Budapest as a replacement for the injured Tony Bow. The Frenchman could make no impression on the series regulars, a challenging first starting position, leaving him up against it to progress, and he eventually could only manage 8th on his birthday X-Trial. Gabriel Marcelli showed moments of promise on his X-Trial World Championship debut, the youngest rider in the field, becoming the first to clean Section 2. But he struggled throughout the lap with drop marks for leaning, and failing 4 of the 5 sections left him 9th. Michael Jalabert finished 9 marks clear of any of his direct Heat 1 rivals, becoming the first to clean Section 1 and the first to complete Sections 5 and 6. A result comfortably good enough for him to progress to round 2. Luca Petrella put in a strong start to his World Championship debut, the Italian dropping just 1 mark in the first 2 sections of the lap. Despite failing the remaining 4, he was left above Heat 1 riders Ferrer and Marcelli, waiting for one more rider to slip up. No mistakes from his more experienced rivals were forthcoming though. Automatic qualifier and podium finisher from Paris, Takisa Fujinami already had his place in round 2 sealed halfway through the lap. Becoming the first rider through section 4 helped him move above Mikel Jalabert as well. James Dable came closest to a slip-up. 15 drop marks in the first 4 sections, leaving him no room for error in section 6. But the Brit became the second rider through clean, securing his place in round 2 in the process. Jaime Busto secured his place in round 2 for a 5th consecutive X-Trial, moving provisionally top on the first lap with 3 clean sections, becoming the first through faultlessly in section 4 and the first to complete the lap in single-digit scoring. Pursuit of world number 3 status hung by a thread for Benoit Bincaz as he lined up for section 6, knowing that a failure could rule him out of contention. But although his lap was far from convincing with 3 failed sections, he held on when it mattered to become the 5th rider safely through. In the absence of Tony Bow, Adam Raga took over as the favourite in Budapest. He consolidated that status by taking top spot in round 1. Raga recorded an impressive 4 clean sections, becoming the only rider to clean section 3, and took a mere 5-mark score to oust Jaime Busto at the leaderboard summit. The top 3 from Paris occupying the lead positions again after round 1 in Budapest. Mikel Jalabert best of the rest, and the 2 young debutants respectable and not far from progression. So the 6 favourites have progressed through to round 2. Let's take a look at the lineups. Heat number 1, James Dable, Takisa Fujinami and Jaime Busto. And lining up in Heat 2, Benoit Bincaz, Mikel Jalabert and Adam Raga. Remember, only the winner of each heat can move through to tonight's grand final. First rider up, James Dable of Great Britain. And first rider down as well. It's a failure in section 1 for James Dable. A disastrous start for the 31-year-old Yorkshireman. To his 44th appearance here tonight. He's made it through to round 2 for the first time since way back in round 2 of this campaign. And the second round of heats have not got off to a good start for James Dable. 5 from section 1 then, as he comes onto the cotton reels, looking for a better result here. The 7 times British champion. 3 career podiums to his name. The 3rd, of course, recorded at X-Trial Montpellier at the start of this year. Since then, it's been a disappointment, and Dable is already resigned to finishing bottom of the permanent riders in the championship overall, hoping to maintain 7th position in the championship here tonight and finish with a flourish as well. Dable showing some improved form here in section number 2 after a stuttering start in section 1. He's heading towards the end of the 2nd section now, and he's still clean as well. Good riding here from James Dable, who gets round 2 up and running on a personal note after a 5-mark score in section 1. He's clean in section 2. 5 marks from 2 for Dable. British rider lining up now for section number 3. Held the world number 3 ranking after round 2, but it really has been disastrous for him since then. Picking up the pieces here this evening, having made it through after a bit of a scare in round number 1, it must be said, through to the 2nd round. His mind awaiting at the top of the section. Decent size step for the riders to negotiate here. Inverse direction, of course, in all of these sections compared to round number 1. So completely new for Dable, who has the disadvantage of being first out through them. It's a drop mark for leaning. Thought Dable was going to make it up there, but he slipped back down onto the sump, and that's a single mark drop for leaning by James Dable. Now the descent. Oh, and he's got that wrong as well, and he takes a dab with his left foot to bring himself back onto the section, to avoid slipping onto the floor and down to a 5-mark score. So it's 2 so far in section number 3. Just the spindles at the end of this section to make it through, and he will be complete his first half of this lap. James Dable building himself up. Final steps here. Up on the back wheel. Good work there from James Dable. After a disappointing start in section 1, he's recovered his lap somewhat. 7 marks now from 3 sections for James Dable. Second half of a lap, starting with section number 4. Again, as I say, none of the riders have tackled these sections in this direction as yet tonight, so James Dable is trailblazing. Remains to be seen what the others can do as he just runs a little bit short there at the top and has to work hard to bring himself forward, but he's achieved it. Again, resting the front wheel just over the crest of the element to remain inside the section. James Dable looking good here in section 4. Looking for his second clean of the lap, and he does it. James Daybell remaining on 7 marks from 4 sections completed so far. Just that failure in section 1 really hampering his scoring. Section 5 next up. It's going to be fairly tight on time towards the end of this lap by the looks of things, James Daybell. Very demanding, these sections here in terms of time. And remember, the riders have 6 minutes in which to complete 6 sections, as Daybell just loses a mark for leaning there, clacking the sump on the landing on the way down. Got a couple of steps still to make it through in the remainder of this section, number 5. That's going to be another mark for leaning there for Daybell, who's now up onto 3. So any further errors here for Daybell, and it'll be a failure in section 5. He can ill afford another after a fiasco in section 1, but he's got a decent-sized step to make it up here. Has to do so clean, remember. Otherwise, this is going to be a failure for James Daybell. Big moment for him. Super ride to get up. And it's 3 marks from section 5. 4 sections in a row now James Daybell has completed, after a tough start for him in section 1. Section number 6, the last of the lap. He hasn't got a lot of time to play with here. Really will need to rush. First step completed, but he's dropped a couple of marks there for leaning at the top. Curved surface, so a challenge there. Oh, and Daybell's misjudged it. Off the side of the cylinder and down to a 5-mark score. So James Daybell completes his lap on 15 marks, half of the maximum possible tally of 30, which is a solid, if unspectacular, effort. And it remains to be seen what his 2 direct rivals will do in this heat number 1. The first of them, Takeisa Fujinami. James Daybell failed this step. Takeisa Fujinami makes it up. So whereas James Daybell scored a 5 in section 1, Takeisa Fujinami is so far so good in section number 1. But of course, he is effectively opening this course now in section 1. None of the riders, other than that failure right at the start of the section for James Daybell, have seen any of these elements. So Fuji taking his time. Tends to be one of the weaker riders in terms of time anyway. So taking his time and trying to get it right early on in the lap here. James Daybell exited this section 1 with 5 marks. Takeisa Fujinami is still clean. He's just got this final step to negotiate now. And he will move 5 marks ahead of where James Daybell was at the same stage. And that's bad news for the Brit, good news for the Japanese veteran as he bids for back-to-back podium finishes. Takeisa Fujinami is through in section 1, clean as well. Good start to the lap for Takeisa Fujinami, who comes now into section number 2. Fujigas, the automatic qualifier, having finished as the top event rider in Paris, takes the all-time appearance record in the X-Trial World Championship here tonight, making his 136th X-Trial start here this evening. The oldest rider in the field at 38 years of age, Takeisa Fujinami. Again, taking his time here, Takeisa Fujinami, but he's going to leave himself very tight in terms of that elapsing 6 minutes as we get towards the end of the lap. Daybell himself found a great deal of pressure, and he'd had a failure right at the start of section 1, so he only had to do 5 of the sections. Good ride there from Takeisa Fujinami to get up to the top of section number 2. Daybell was clean in this section, remember, so Fujinami hoping to match him. Japanese rider who became the 8th different competitor to make it onto a 2018 X-Trial podium last time out in Paris. Bidding to do so once again here tonight. Clean in the opening 2 sections, and Fujinami over the last couple of rounds of this season putting in some of the best riding we've seen from him in X-Trial competition for quite some time. Curse of the commentator. Bit of a misjudgment there from Fujinami. He's dropped a mark for leaning there. So Takeisa Fujinami dropping his first mark of the lap here in section 3. James Daybell made it up this step, dropped 2 marks in this section. Fujinami still in line to get the better of the Brit. Makes it up the step without needing any marks for leaning and remains on 1. James Daybell staring elimination in the face at this stage. Fujinami struggling for balance as he makes it down, but he does make it down. James Daybell, remember, dropped a mark there, slipping off the side of the section. So Fujinami looking really strong as we head towards the halfway mark in this lap. Bridging to the spindles, the final element of section number 3. Takeisa Fujinami bidding for a 37th career podium finish here tonight. The first ever X-Trial Budapest. So many different venues Fujinami has competed in over the years. Final steps. Oh, he's missed it. Takehisa Fujinami crashes down to a costly 5-mark score. And he looked so strong early on here in round number 2. He knows the magnitude of that error. That will be difficult to recover from here. He is still 2 marks up on where James Dable was at the same stage, halfway through this heat number 1. Fujinami now on section number 4. Good ride on the back wheel there. Misjudgment. He recovers it. Good balance there from Takehisa Fujinami. He'd looked dead and buried in this section. He has conceded 2 marks. He was teetering left and right, and for a moment I thought it was going to be successive 5-mark scores. But instead, Takehisa Fujinami gets out of section 4 and gets his lap back on track. He's on 7 marks though now. 2 marks dropped in section 4. James Dable was clean in the same section. Oh, and it's a disaster! Right on the entrance to section 5 for Takehisa Fujinami. And this lap that started in such strong fashion has completely unravelled for the Japanese veteran. So Takehisa Fujinami must now complete this section to remain in the competition, and he's failed it. Up and over and across the other side and down to a 5-mark score. 17 marks his finishing total. Really frustrating end to the lap for Takehisa Fujinami, who started so strongly with 2 cleans. James Dable 15, Takehisa Fujinami 17. Current standings in heat number 1. Jaime Busto, the third rider, out onto the sections here. Already dropping 1 mark for leaning on the first step. The Spaniard, massively inconsistent this season, will go down in the history of the sport for having won a round and finished last at a round in the same season. Any doubts, though, as to whether leaving Honda was the right move have been wiped away by his recent form, taking the opportunity to step forward since Tony Bow's injury replaced him as the man to beat last time out with a first career victory at X-Trial Paris. Busto making some good progress here in section number 1. It was failed by Dable, it was clean by Fujinami. Busto already has 1 mark to his name, will want to get over this final element without dropping any more ground to the Japanese rider. Jaime Busto taking his time here and does it on the back wheel. Good ride in section 1 from Jaime Busto. Remember, he only needs to beat a 15-mark tally set by James Dable to progress through to the final, and since Dable scored a 5 in section 1, a single mark score is a more than acceptable result for Jaime Busto. Youngster becoming the 20th different winner in X-Trial history last weekend with his success at X-Trial Paris over Adam Raga by just 3 marks in the end in the final. Favourite to make it through alongside Raga here this evening, and by finishing 1 and 2 in round number 1, they won't meet one another until the final, if indeed they meet here tonight. Jaime Busto continuing to progress through section 2. He's clean so far. He is clean in section number 2. The third rider in succession to make it through there clean. So clearly one of the easier sections on the lap. And Busto has a single mark from 2 sections. James Dable was on 5 at the same stage. So Busto clear for now. Section number 3, first step completed successfully by Busto. Looking to add to his 2 career podium finishes, both recorded in this 2018 campaign, which, remember, is Busto's first full X-Trial campaign. First time he's been nominated as a permanent rider, had been included as a wildcard previously. Heading up to the final steps of this section now, Jaime Busto. He's still clean in section 3. Nobody's made it through this section clean as yet. Dable dropped 2. Fujinami failed this very step that Busto's about to approach. What can the youngster do? He's up. And Jaime Busto looking set for a clean in section 3. 1 mark dropped in the first 3 sections. Dable was already on 7 by this stage. And now anything other than a failure next time out in section 4, and Busto will have his place in the final confirmed with 2 sections to spare. So Jaime Busto looking to confirm his place in the grand final. Could be set for a place on this year's World Championship podium at the end of the night. Let's see how he reacts to pressure in the latter stages in Budapest here this evening. So far, so good. No sign of errors in this one, section 4. This could be the moment that Jaime Busto puts one hand on that FIM bronze medal. Needs to beat Benoit Bincaz, who's set to line up in heat number 2. And Jaime Busto secures his place in tonight's grand final. His second successive appearance in the top 2 of an X-Trial. And that certainly raises the pressure on the shoulders of Benoit Bincaz of France, who'll be the first rider out in heat number 2. So a look at the full result then at the end of heat number 1, and it's Jaime Busto who progresses through to the grand final after a 5-mark score in section 6. He finishes the lap on 8. 15 marks for James Daybill, who sits in a provisional podium position. And Takehisa Fujinami is eliminated. The best he can hope for here this evening is 4th place on the night. So we move on now to heat number 2. Benoit Bincaz, Mikel Jalabert and Adam Raga will tackle the sections in that order. The focus in the context of the championship is the first rider out here, Benoit Bincaz, needing to progress through to tonight's grand final to keep up the pace with Jaime Busto, his direct rival, for 3rd in the series overall. Good start to the lap for Benoit Bincaz. First step completed successfully. Nice work on the descent. Reference points so far. James Daybill scored a 5 here, and Jaime Busto a single mark. Busto is the rider that Bincaz will aim to match. He certainly got a tough draw in round number 2 as a result of his finishing position in round 1, where he was far from spectacular. Bincaz lines up against Adam Raga. But he's still looking good in section number 1. He's just got to keep his score as low as is physically possible and hope for errors from Raga, who is undoubtedly the favourite here tonight, and particularly in this heat number 2 against 2 of the youngsters, Bincaz and Jalabert. Benoit Bincaz bridging this final step of section number 1. Taking his time here, puts the front wheel back down. He's going to re-evaluate and takes a slightly different approach now. Benoit Bincaz, time ticking away here in Budapest. Labouring over this section number 1. And he's dropped 2 marks there on the final element. So it's a 2-mark score for Benoit Bincaz in section number 1. And that's not quite the start he would have been hoping for, because it was promising. He'd cleaned the first step where Jaime Busto, remember, dropped a single mark. But he went on to two drop marks later on. Benoit Bincaz is now into section number 2. Each of the 3 riders to line up in this section in heat number 1 came through it clean. And Bincaz aiming to do the same. First rider out in heat 2, so he doesn't know what total he needs to score to progress. He's got to make the target as tough as possible. Good ride in section 2. 2 marks now from the first 2 sections. And in terms of the battle for tonight's podium, James Daybill is the target in that contest. He sits on 15. As I said, remember, Benoit Bincaz must progress from heat 2 to keep his hopes of the FIM bronze medal alive, with Jaime Busto having already made it successfully through to the final. Now on to section number 3. Busto was clean on this one last time out. Daybill and Fujinami both dropped marks. Bincaz remains clean for the moment. Minder scurrying out of the way as Bincaz makes it quickly up. Descent the other side, successfully achieved. Stopping himself against the lip at the end of that element. And now he'll make a mid-air turn before the final spindles of the section that caught out Takehisa Fujinami. Benoit Bincaz, 4th place last time out in Paris, never very far away from the podium in his debut X-Trial World Championship season. Good ride in that one. And Benoit Bincaz remains on just 2 drop marks, passing the halfway mark in the lap. Quick swig of water. There will be some time pressure later on, but for the moment, Bincaz is focusing on getting every section right and keeping his score as low as possible. 2 marks from 3. The best of anyone other than Jaime Busto, who's on just a single dab at this stage. Section 4 now, Benoit Bincaz of France. Until Paris, Bincaz looked pretty much settled in 3rd place in the World Championship, but that bronze medal fight reignited last time out with victory for Jaime Busto. Single drop mark so far in the section for Benoit Bincaz, and it is a single drop mark he finishes with there in section number 4. Dabel and Busto had both run clean there. But Binkaz is looking good on this lap, minimising errors, 3 marks so far. Section number 5 next up. Certainly accessible sections, that was proved in heat number 1. Each of them completed other than section number 6, and Binkaz has still got that one to come. He's working his way quickly through section 5 to see if he can make up some time to leave himself with the best possible chance of giving section 6 a good go. As I said, nobody's completed that one as yet. Last step of section 5, Binkaz makes it look easy. Super riding from him. He really has grown in stature as this 2018 campaign has gone on. 3 marks from 5 for Benoit Binkaz. He's the man setting the target in heat number 2. And at the moment, that target is just 3 marks. And what a fantastic result that would be if he can remain on that score. He's dropped one there for a dab. Left foot goes down, as you can see, just to bring himself back onto the section. Up on the back wheel. Good work from Benoit Binkaz. Oh, he slipped off the side of the section. Binkaz makes it further than anyone else has so far here tonight, but then goes down to a frustrating fall in section number 6. Well, he becomes the 4th rider to fail that one, so far from disastrous. But let's see what his remaining 2 contenders can do as we move on with Mikel Jalabert, the next rider out here. 20-year-old from Spain in his debut X-Trial campaign, like Benoit Binkaz. Highly creditable 5th in the championship standings. More impressive considering that he missed the opening round of the season. He hasn't been in the X-Trial World Championship campaign since the beginning, but did start his X-Trial career in fine style with 3 consecutive top 5 finishes in Montpellier, Toulouse and Strasbourg, and that runner-up position in X-Trial Strasbourg. Mikel Jalabert looking to beat Benoit Binkaz's very demanding target total of 8 marks, which is the score that was required to win heat number 1. So you would suggest that heat 2 is the stronger of the lineups here in round number 2. Mikel Jalabert aiming to match or better Benoit Binkaz, and he does so. Just a single drop mark in section number 1 earlier on in it, and that final step didn't pose Jalabert any great difficulties compared to Binkaz, who dropped 2 marks there, remember. Mikel Jalabert now into section number 2. It's been cleaned by 4 riders so far. Jalabert looking to become the 5th. Working through very efficiently in terms of time, all on the back wheel. This is the main step of the section. Jalabert building up to it. Up he goes. Oh, up he doesn't go. Down he goes. It's a 5-mark score. Would you believe it? A section that's seen 4 riders home clean sees Mikel Jalabert down to a fiasco. And that really is going to leave him up against it now to qualify. He's already on 6 marks. Binkaz finished the entire lap on 8. So any more than 2 drop marks in the remainder of this lap and Jalabert will be eliminated. Section 3 for Mikel Jalabert, who's now under pressure. And having at the season's halfway mark been favourite for the world number 3 ranking, he already knows that his hopes of a top 3 finish in the series overall are over as a result of Jaime Busto making it through to tonight's grand final. But I'm sure he would still like to finish with a flourish in 2018. And as things stand, it doesn't look very likely that he's going to make it through to tonight's grand final. Benoit Binkaz was clean in this section. Mikel Jalabert clean as well so far, and he needs to stay that way. Binkaz dropped 6 marks in the closing 3 sections. Jalabert needs to do a whole lot better than that now. And most importantly, he needs to become the first rider to get through that challenging section 6. Good ride in section 3. Becomes the 3rd rider to clean that one, Mikel Jalabert. Things will get tougher in the final 2 sections, though, of the lap. Section 4 now for Mikel Jalabert, 6 marks so far. Better than James Dabel was on at the same stage, remember. Dabel was on 7, but recovered to a total of 15, which is still the target total for a provisional place on the podium. Adam Raga still to come, though, so that target likely to get tougher. Oh, Jalabert's misjudged it and slips left off the section down to a 5-mark score. Disaster for him as he is eliminated. A critical failure there just bounces off the side of the section. Unbelievable. So Mikel Jalabert has seen himself eliminated prematurely here this evening and comes into section 6 knowing he must record a maximum of 3 marks to keep his podium hopes this evening alive, i.e. to remain above James Daybell in the overall classification for round number 2. Daybell second in heat number 1 with 15. Jalabert will be second in heat 2 after his ride here. Oh, and that's not gone to plan either for Jalabert. He balances on the side of the section, but eventually gives it up, and it's a 5-mark score. Once again, a third failure of the lap for Mikel Jalabert. The Spaniard does remain above Takehisa Fujinami in the overall classification, but you can see he's not exactly delighted about that. Really disappointing for him. A failure in section 2 paved the way for his eventual elimination. Adam Raga moving on here to section number 2. Scored just a single drop mark in section 1. Remember that he's got to get the better of that 8-mark tally set by Benoit Bincaz if he wants to progress through to tonight's grand final, alongside Jaime Busto, who progressed from heat number 1. Well, for Raga, any place in the top 4 this evening will make him the highest point scorer of all time in the X-Trial World Championship. So although he's confirmed in second in the world this season, he's got something extra to fight for here tonight as he makes his 124th X-Trial World Championship appearance. Adam Raga, easy enough for him in section number 2. Becomes the 5th rider through clean there. Now on to section number 3. There are going to be only small margins in it in this one, heat number 2, because Benoit Bincaz finished on a single-digit score, of course. Raga on 1. He's got 7 to play with at the most, and Bincaz saved 13 seconds in time as well, having failed in section number 6. 5 riders failing in that section 6. So if Raga fails there as well, he's got to avoid dropping 2 marks or more in the rest of the lap. Adam Raga, the most experienced of all the riders in this contest, just drops a mark there for leaning. He landed it right on the sump on that step. So that's 2 already. And now he's on to the same total as what Benoit Bincaz sat on at the end of this section, halfway through the lap. Adam Raga will be at the end of this section number 3. Raga twice beaten by Jaime Busto this season in the round 2 stage in Vendée and in the final in Paris. But at the moment, his biggest challenger is Benoit Bincaz here in round number 2. He really has set a strong lap and a challenging target total. Raga avoiding errors in the closing stages of that one, section number 3. So it is 2 marks for Raga after 3 sections. Bincaz, though, was clean there. Raga dropping a mark now sits on the same total that Bincaz sat on after section number 3. And Raga is straight into section 4. Raga undoubtedly the favourite for victory here this evening with 36 event wins already to his name. He's taken more X-Trial victories than the rest of tonight's field combined, in the absence of Tony Bowe, of course. Raga, 4 times world champion, the last world champion before the era of Tony Bowe. Over a decade of consecutive championship wins for Bowe. So Adam Raga making good progress here in section 4. It's the second clean of the lap for him. Bincaz dropped a single mark there, and we're talking about a dab here and there potentially deciding this round number 2. Heat 1 was straightforward enough. Jaime Busto had a 7-mark advantage over James Daybell. But it's looking like heat number 2 will be far closer. Section 5. Adam Raga under pressure. And he only has 6 marks to play with in the closing 3 sections, Adam Raga, as he bids to extend his all-time podium record. He's already on to 103 podium finishes for his career, Adam Raga. Makes it up, and through he goes. A single mark score for Adam Raga. And round number 2 will go right down to the last section. 5 riders have failed this one, section 6. A failure here for Adam Raga as well would level the scoring in heat number 2. Completion of this section, meanwhile, would see Raga progress, and Benoit Bincaz's hopes of taking the world number 3 position would be over. Plenty riding on this ride from Adam Raga in section 6. So far, so good. Jaime Busto already through. The other rider who made the final last time out in Paris, Adam Raga, bidding to join him here at the first ever X-Trial Budapest. Raga has already made it further than the majority of riders in this one, section number 6, and he's still clean. Adam Raga books his place in tonight's grand final. The first rider through in section 6, and he does so in style with a clean. Great deal of pressure on Adam Raga's shoulders right down to the latter stages as he went into that section number 6 on 3 marks, knowing if he became the 6th rider to fail it, he would be eliminated. So Adam Raga then progresses through to tonight's grand final by a 5-mark margin in the end, somewhat flattering. Jaime Busto and Benoit Bincaz demonstrating just how evenly matched they've been this season as they both finished on 8 marks during round number 2, but Bincaz had the tougher round 2 heat, and he is eliminated by Adam Raga. So we're on with the final. Jaime Busto versus Adam Raga once again. A slight change to this section compared to the configuration we saw it in round number 1. An additional jump, but we've already seen Jaime Busto tackle that, and with aplomb. The remainder of this first section should be straightforward for him. He was clean in section 1 in the opening round. 5 sections rather than the usual 6 in tonight's grand final, and the first of them completed clean in straightforward fashion for Jaime Busto. Busto had the 2nd starting position in Paris, so he was able to manage the final to a great extent, knowing exactly what he needed to do at each stage, and it's Raga who has that advantage here this evening, having finished round 2 on 3 marks compared to Busto on 8. Here's that step I was talking about, added for the grand final, but it poses no great difficulty to Adam Raga either. And he proceeds through in straightforward fashion. 1 minute per section in the grand final, but Jaime Busto used less than half of that minute in his ride through section number 1, and Raga completes section 1 in just 33 seconds. So section 1 proving perhaps a little bit too easy for these riders in the grand final, and both remain clean after their opening sparring in the final here at X-Trial Budapest. Still waiting for a first drop mark of the final to split these two. Neither has been able to draw first blood. Jaime Busto and Adam Raga both clean through sections 1 and 2. Busto next out. First rider out through these sections on each occasion. It's in the last 2 sections of the lap where things will start to become a little bit trickier. This configuration, you'll remember, it has already been seen, of course, by the riders in round number 2. Busto was clean and Raga dropped a single mark for leaning, so could be a first opportunity for Busto to try and take an advantage because he is through clean in section 3. Jaime Busto still yet to drop his first mark of the lap. We're more than halfway through this grand final now. Each time Busto runs a clean, it's Raga who's under pressure. He lines up for section number 3, needing to get through it clean for the first time. This is the step where he dropped a mark in round number 2, but he's up, and very straightforward he made it look as well. Busto, 3 cleans, Raga 2 cleans, bidding for his 3rd. We'll go down to the final 2 sections of this final to settle X-Trial Budapest, the first ever X-Trial title here in Hungary. Raga building up to these spindles, the final elements of section number 3. He's good in terms of time, not quite as good as Jaime Busto, but good enough for sure. Adam Raga is through, 52 seconds, so 8 seconds clear and clean in section 3. Neither rider has blinked as yet. And we go into section number 4, one of the longer ones of the lap, and Jaime Busto has dropped a mark on the entrance to the section for leaning. Saw him land the first jump on the sump. Busto dropped 3 marks in this direction earlier on in the evening. Got 2 sections combined here. It's section 5 from lap 1 and section 4 from round 2, run in succession. You can see this is the final element of what was section 5 on the opening lap, and now we're into what was section 4 on the second lap. Busto hasn't dropped a mark since that opening step, and he doesn't look likely to. He was clean through these hazards in round number 2, and he's clean on them again. It's just that single mark dropped early on, the first step of the section, and that's the first drop mark of the lap for either rider. And Adam Raga has an opportunity to take the X-Trial lead here in section number 4, the penultimate section of this grand final. Raga too, though, has dropped a mark for the opening step. Pulls himself forwards. Any major errors at this stage of the competition would be severely penalised. Going to go down to the challenging section 5, which was the 6th section of round number 2. And we're going to add a little bit of extra difficulty level as well to it. Jaime Busto had no great difficulty in terms of time in this section number 4. Completed his run in 44 seconds. Raga labouring a little bit more so far, but he should still be good in terms of time. Remember, a failure in terms of time in the final is a 5-mark score. Neither rider can afford any of those at this stage. It's been a low-scoring X-Trial in general, and a particularly low-scoring grand final. Just that single mark for Adam Raga, matching Jaime Busto identically in section number 4. So we come down to the final section of the lap with both riders on a single mark apiece, and it's up to a straightforward head-to-head shootout. The first element of this section 6, the most challenging. The riders aren't allowed to touch the block on the other side of this first step, and that's exactly what Jaime Busto has done. Down to a 5-mark score in section 5, and Adam Raga, if he can complete the last section of this lap, will win here in Budapest. Busto far from impressed with that. He tried to make it up on the back wheel there and a mid-air turn, but he didn't quite get the front wheel where he wanted it, and down he went to a 5-mark score. If Raga completes this section, he's through. As victor, he's taken a dab and a mark for leaning, and it's a bit scrappy, but he's avoided using the block that cost Jaime Busto this section. And Adam Raga on 2 marks at the moment. As long as he avoids dropping 2 more, will be the winner here at X-Trial Budapest. He'll become the 3rd different winner of the campaign and take his first victory since the opening round of 2016. Couple of curved surfaces for Raga to negotiate. He was the only rider to negotiate this section in round number 2, and he's the only rider to negotiate it in the final. Adam Raga wins the first ever X-Trial to be staged here in Hungary. And after disappointment by a 3-mark margin at X-Trial Paris, Adam Raga gets his revenge by a 3-mark margin here in Budapest. Jaime Busto will almost feel as though he's lost a penalty shootout. That one was almost like a tie-break section. The level of the sections forcing the decider in section number 5, but it's Raga who wins out there. The advantage of the second starting position proving crucial for him. An entertaining and open X-Trial, 6 different manufacturers making it through to the second round, and a clear division in the end between the top 3 riders and the round 2 qualifiers who missed out on the podium. I'm happy with my riding this evening. I did some great things, just one failure in the last section, so I'm happy to finish the season like this, above all with a 3rd position. That gives me confidence for the summer season and for the next X-Trial season, and I'm very motivated to continue training for that. It's been a very difficult day. I started out very nervous because of the battle for 3rd position and made some mistakes on the first lap. The second lap went much better. I made a mistake in the last section, but I already knew I was through to the final. Adam made the final very difficult, and I had to try the last section on the back wheel, which didn't work out, but I congratulate him on a great race. The sections in the final were easy, and Jaime was incredible right to the end, but he made a mistake in the last section, and I could just make sure and claim the win. I'm very happy. Benoit Bincaz takes his second 2018 podium. Some consolation after losing the world number 3 ranking, but not even the on-form Jaime Busto could stop Adam Raga from claiming his 37th career X-Trial victory. A look at the final standings for the 2018 World Championship. 3 of the top 5 in the classification are youth hopefuls, 2 of them 2018 debutants. But they still have some way to go to reach the world's top 2, Tony Bow and Adam Raga. In the absence of Tony Bow, the FIM gold medal is awarded to Repsol Montesa Honda team manager Mikel Serrera, with Adam Raga taking silver and Jaime Busto a hard-fought bronze. Just up to the top two here tonight.